Hello friends, Clage back with another Punishing Grey Raven guide today, and now that we've had some time to let Alpha develop with her new inverse crown frame, I figured this would be a good time to go ahead and do the updated Ignition Team guide, since she has arrived with that elemental effect attached to her. Ignition remains one of the more simpler elemental effects to work with. It's very straightforward with how to build the stacks and how to utilize the damage over time effect once it's been activated. So for this particular team guide, I'm going to forego a full combat demonstration, as I think it would mostly just be superfluous fluff at this point. And I'm just going to show actual Warzone recordings and go over the rotations and how the team works in practice within that scope, because Ignition is very straightforward, and I feel like wasting an extra 10 to 15 minutes of your lives going through the combat demo is just not really necessary at this point. So I'm going to try and keep this guide a little bit more truncated than normal. However, it's me and I yap, and you all know this, so you know what you're signing up for. Nonetheless, I want to go over how the current Ignition team looks and how to utilize it best when it comes up in the Warzone during the week, as well for any Ignition-based bosses. That will mostly revolve around using Alpha the same way you would use her for Ice Pain Cage bosses, aka charge up, let the big ultimate rip. Not super complicated. But this is mostly going to focus on the Ignition Warzone rotations and how the team works in that general sense. So, as with all my elemental effect guides, I'm going to go over the team composition and equipment, how to load out all the characters to get the most out of the elemental effect. And as mentioned, I'm going to show sample runs for teams below SS3, and then another sample run for your teams when they are invested up at SS3 or above. And that should be more than enough to get you off and running with this particular squad when it comes to the Ignition effect. So let's go ahead and take a look at what these teams actually look like moving forward. So we'll hop into the Warzone. We do have Ignition on deck this week, all the more reason I need to get this done. But the updated optimal Ignition team will look as such. Alpha will act as the leader and be the main DPS carry for this team. She is going to be doing almost the entirety of the heavy lifting when it comes to actually wiping out the waves and doing the damage. Nana Knight will act as the Ignition stack builder, as well as applying consistent shred, and will offer a little bit of damage as she uses the Ignition effect as well, but her main purpose is to build the stacks, get the DOT online, and keep it running at maximum efficiency for the duration of the run. And lastly, Veronica will act as the team buffer and amplifier, offering up the amplifier bonus so Alpha can get the most out of her ultimates. And of course, she also has the Ignition effect and does solid Ignition damage. However, Alpha is a much, much better damage carry than Veronica is, so Veronica is going to be mostly focused on just buffing the team and then filling the downtime for when Alpha and Nanami are not on the field, either building the stacks or utilizing the stacks and doing all the damage. So, before I get into the details of the equipment loadouts and all that good stuff, I do want to acknowledge that if your Alpha is very, very low invested, so double S and no signature weapons, something in that realm of possibility, there are versions of the Ignition team that are probably going to perform better if you swap Alpha out and just add in Kamui as an extra fire damage shred breaker. These are going to depend entirely on how well invested your Nana Knight and Veronica are as such, but I just want to note that that is a possible option if you did not invest heavily in Alpha, or if your team is lacking in general and Alpha just isn't carrying good enough damage for you. However, this guide's going to focus solely on what the team looks like with Alpha on it, because that is going to be the best version of the Ignition team. But I just wanted to note that that is a possibility, since Ignition does count as fire damage. It does mean Kamui can do some work if you're working on lower investment levels. The only real hard requirement to running this team is all three characters need to be at least double S, and they will all need their signature weapons, unfortunately. This is a common after effect of elemental effects. It's very hard to utilize prioritize them if the characters don't have their signature weapons, and that's just kind of an ongoing thing when it comes to the elemental effects. They tend to be somewhat more investment demanding than the base elements are, so if you are lacking one of these three characters' signature weapons, I would not recommend running the Ignition team. I would go ahead and take whatever the other option is in the Warzone on that given week. If you do have a week where one of the Warzones that's just a single Warzone where you don't get to pick what element it is Ignition, then you'll have to make do with some kind of budget combination of fire and whoever you have available for Ignition, but you do really need the signature weapons on this, and I hate saying that, but it's just kind of a fact of life, and unfortunately it's kind of becoming a fact of PGR that it's really, really hard to do a lot without signature weapons, and I wish that's something Curl would revisit and kind of reassess so that people aren't pressed to always get the 6-star weapon when a character comes out, but that's probably a discussion in a video for another time. So for now, let's move on with the actual team composition itself. So as mentioned, Alpha will act as the leader, and her memory loadout is follows. Very, very simple. It's very similar to her main memory loadout for the Ice Team 4-piece Pavlichenko for her signature bonuses, and then you're going to swap out Chinjian for Shakespeare, because Shakespeare does fire damage. Therefore, pretty straightforward. It doesn't get much easier than this. Be a very, very easy transition build if you've already got your Pavlichenko set up and already have it resonated and hyper-tuned. All you got to do is build a couple Shakespeare and then harmonize for the 4-piece bonus. So doesn't get much simpler than that. This is a set it and forget it build. This is the only way you want to operate Alpha. As a reminder, she does not work with Kadi because of her unique personal signature energy mechanic, so this is the only thing you're going to need. As for your resonances, exactly the same as her ice setup. 6 signature on the bottom, any 15 attack up top, and as always, hypertune the bottom row first and the top row second. So pretty straightforward there. As for her weapon, resonances are not required to run the Ignition team. You do not need a single weapon resonance to be able to do the rotations and have things work properly. None of these characters require deadline timing to get through their rotations regardless of investment level. So if you don't have any weapon resonances, cool, you're not going to be put out. You're just going to be lacking some damage that you would get with them. However, if you are running resonances for Alpha, first, I would prioritize Glorious Afterglow. She 3-pings a lot, especially if you are running below double S3. She 3-pings even more when you are at that level, so this is definitely your first go-to. After that, Matrix Lightning, and if you have a full 3-tap of resonances, feel free to throw Incandescence on there for the full 3 set. So Alpha's very straightforward and simple to build, won't take a lot to bounce her off of her ice version, and you're pretty much set, ready to go. As for Nanami, she will act as the main shred and stack builder for the team, so we're going to use a somewhat unorthodox memory build, but if you've been playing long enough, this won't surprise you too much. First and foremost, 4-piece of her signature set Herschel for the increased ignition damage, and her unique QTE and shred bonuses that she gets on that set. And then we're actually going to run 2-piece Gloria. Gloria is a 5-star memory set. If you're a newer player, you probably haven't seen this in very many builds. However, it is just a straight elemental shred, and since Nanami is not focused on doing ignition damage or clearing waves all by herself, her main purpose is to build up the ignition stacks and do as much shred as possible. Gloria is a very solid way to get that done here, since there's not really any other memory that's going to do a lot. There's no point in trying to run Shakespeare because she can't fit the full 4-piece, and we already have Alpha running it. That's all you need since Alpha's the main DPS, so we're just going to stack as much shred as humanly possible on here for Nanami. Lastly, you'll need to harmonize 2-piece Einstein. You will have to harmonize Einstein. You cannot harmonize 5-star memories, unfortunately, so you will need to go this route, and this will allow you to get even more shred on top, mainly with the QTEs, and that's pretty much all Nanami's really going to care about for this setup. As for resonances, you only get 4 because of the Gloria equipment, but that's fine as is. So 4 class skill on the bottom, and then 4 15 attack up top will take care of Nanami's resonances. Same for her weapon as Alpha. She does not require any resonances to function on this team. If you have them available, Domain deconstruction, as always for a tank, is the #1 priority. It's just increased shred. The more shred we stack, the more damage the team does. Pretty straightforward. If you have extras available, you can tack on Matrix Lightning and then Incandescence for the bit of damage that Nana Knight will do during her rotation while she is building up the stacks. But again, pretty straightforward. If you need anything for a reso, Domain Deconstruction is the only one that's really gonna matter, so don't feel like you have to pour a bunch of extra memory or a bunch of extra weapon resonances to make her function on the Ignition team. Nanami, unfortunately, does not have any real budget replacement on this team, as she is far and away the most effective character at building Ignition stacks. There is not another character who can build them as effectively as she can, and of course, you need the Shred to really have this team do any kind of real work. Shred is super important for maximizing the damage, and since Ignition is a damage over time effect, it's extra important you have that Shred on, because it's just going to make the Ignition ticks hit that much harder. I do want to note that Ignition itself, the DOT, does not proc any tank effects, so do keep that in mind. You don't really need to know that. It's not going to be something that affects how you approach the run, but it is something worthy of note that Nana Knight does have to either be on the field doing damage herself, or she has to use her QTE to get Shred applied to the enemy, so something to keep in mind there. But unfortunately, Nanami does not have a budget replacement on this team. If you do not have Nana Knight available, I do not recommend running the Ignition team, because you're just not going to be able to be terribly effective with it. So lastly, Veronica will act as the amplifier and main buffer of the team, so her loadout's also quite simple. We're going to run 4-piece Da Vinci for the QTE bonuses and 4-piece Guinevere for the amplifier healing bonuses and buffs that come with it. Resonances are very straightforward. 6 class skill on the bottom and an E15 attack up top will work fine. Veronica does take the field to fill downtime and does reasonable ignition damage by herself. However, since we're putting her in a full buff set instead of a Shakespeare-based set, her damage is going to be notably less than it was on the older ignition teams, where she did a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of wave clearing. In this case, she's just going to fill downtime and make sure the team is consistently buffed, and that Alpha has the amplifier buff and other things going to maximize the damage for when she is on the field. As for weapon resonances, again, you don't need any to run the team. However, if you have them available, Glorious Spear #1 on any amplifier for the extra healing buffs, Superconducting Axial Ray for the flat bonus, and then lastly, if you want to go extra, you can either run Incandescence or Matrix Lightning. Either works fine on Veronica. Since she is not equipped with any damage sets, there's not going to be a major difference in either of these two. I just tend to leave on Incandescence, because if I forget, it's a little bit less annoying. But either way, these will work if you have a full 3-tap of resonances if you're running that on Veronica. Budget replacement for Veronica do exist if you have Vera Garivor well built and you do not have Veronica available. Vera can slot in, basically run the exact same memory build and fill in downtime the same way. The difference will be she will not do near as much damage, nor will she contribute any extra ignition stacks, as she has the Dark Flow elemental affix instead of the ignition affix. But ignition damage is still fire damage, so Vera will still add some value to the ignition team if you don't have Veronica available. If you do not have either of these, your best bet is going to be to run Ishmael as an amplifier with her amplifier set up, or if you don't have any of these options, you can just run your most well-built amplifier, preferably one that is already triple S, so that you get the increased bonus on the amplifier buffs. Amplifier is the one somewhat flexible aspect of this team. Ideally, it's going to be Veronica because she does everything you want for the team, but there are options available if you are looking for budget availability. So that pretty much goes over the team compositions. These are all very straightforward, kind of set it and forget it setups. Once you have them built, you're good to go. I don't really see the need to run any other memory sets in this case. Ignition is such a straightforward affix, and the way we run the damage on this team is pretty simple to utilize, so this should work out pretty well as you get going and using this effect with Alpha as the lead. So, all that covered, I'm going to go ahead and start queuing up a couple Warzone runs I have done to go go over how the team functions on the field and how the rotations work, and that should get you set up and started and be able to tackle the Warzone this week. So let's go ahead and go hop over to those. All right, so I'm going to have 3 different rotations to show you all today. One is going to be with the members at SS0, one at SS3, and one for SSS. The nice part about these rotations is they all have a lot of overlap. For example, your rotations with Veronica and Nanami for SS are going to be identical at SS3. Their rotations only change once you hit SSS with either of them, and Alpha, on the other hand, has 2 different rotations, one for SS and then one for SS3 and above. And the nice part is, if you have these characters at different investment levels, you can mix and match the rotations I'm going to show you from each investment rank, and they will still form together to make a nice cohesive rotation for your entire team. So the general idea for this guide is you're going to take the rotation based on what investment level each character is at, and then just basically mash them together and make your own team's rotation. Now, a couple things I want to talk about before we get into the breakdowns and I go through each rotation individually is that, one, since all of my personal characters on my account are SSS, there are certain things I have to do that are going to look different on your screen because I'm either going to have more orbs or more core passive gauge or other things that I cannot disable, because you cannot disable evolutionary passives. So just keep in mind that as long as you're following my directions and going by the annotations that I'll put up when I do the full commentary in real time for each set of rotations, you will have this work even if your characters are at the investment levels that I'm talking about. So if your characters are SS, don't worry if you don't have as many orbs or as much core passive or something like that. It's still going to work. I have to finagle some things to make these work as is because of the evolutionary passives. For example, I have to put deadline timing on Alpha to do the SS rotation, not because it's required to do the SS rotation, but because once she hits SS3, she actually automatically pings extra orbs during her hold basic attack, and that means I can't do the SS rotation normally without running out of orbs. So my Alpha will have DLT on. You do not need it. It is simply to facilitate me showing you how the rotation works. Also, of course, note that since my Nanami is SSS, my swap cooldown timer has the 3-second cutoff. For the tank passive, if your Nanami is not SSS, your swaps are going to be 3-second longer. That's still going to work within the confines of these rotations. You may need to make minor modifications if you want to maximum optimize, depending on how each character is invested. But just note that this will work just fine. As always, I'm not trying to give you the absolute min-maxi rotation that's going to put you at the top of the leaderboard, but these are all incredibly cohesive rotations that will get you competent scores and should be able to get you even into Legend if you're sitting in Hero currently. So all that being said, we'll go through each of these individually. I'll explain why we're doing what we're doing, and then I'll do the real-time annotation commentary over, and we'll go from there. So we're going to start off with Veronica as the starter. She'll come in, and we're going to immediately swap to Nanami. So I'm going to back up just a smidgen here. When Nanami first swaps in, you're going to take a look at your 2 static orbs. You just need to get to 2 3 pings. If you've played Nanami in Ignition before, this is no different than how you play her in the past. You need 2 3 pings so that the yellow orb comes online. In this case, my current run, I had 6 blue and 2 red, so I'm going to do 2 blue 3 pings to get enough built up to activate the yellow orb, and from there you just hold down the yellow orb to start the ignition stacks. Something I want to note, I recommend not proccing your QTEs on these first few waves in the Warzone. Main reason for that being is if you proc your QTEs, oftentimes these enemies are going to die a little quicker, and you actually want them staying on screen for a minute just so you can build up the actual ignition stacks to maximum. You want to have this at 20 before Nanami ults, so that way you're getting the maximum damage over time burn from the ignition once the effect is activated. So I recommend holding your QTEs when you first start your Warzone and not spinning them, because frankly the enemies are so weak it's not necessary, and again you want as many ignition stacks as possible. So Nanami holds down yellow until she gets ultimate. You're gonna notice the combustible thing change numbers here and there, and that's because ignition is still somewhat buggy. It is a notably buggy elemental fix, and sometimes it just drops numbers. I think they've improved it. I don't see this happening near as regularly, but sometimes the display does get a little wonky. So don't fret if the number is jumping around. It's just ignition and it's just PGR. Sometimes stuff is jank. You all know how this is by now. So Nanami is going to ult. This will activate the ignition effect. And from here, we're going to bring in Alpha. Nice part about Alpha is that, unlike my original guide, we have figured out ways to both fit two ultimates in a single amplifier window, even when doing a setup rotation. And if she's double S3 or higher, we can fit 3 ults in an amplifier window once we do a setup rotation. So both Alpha's rotations, regardless if you're double S or double S3 or above, start out with a setup rotation, and then she'll repeat the same rotation for the rest of the run, with one caveat, and I'll talk about that a bit. But for double S0, Alpha's going to come in. You're immediately going to charge your static orb. It'll either be blue or red, depending on which weapon you prefer to start with. It does not matter. Either will work fine, and you will be able to do the same exact rotation. But we hold down the static orb, and what we're going to do is continue holding the static orb until her Malison, the signature energy mechanic. I'm just going to call it her signature energy for simplicity's sake, because at the end of the day, nobody cares what this is called. It's still building up to her signature. But once you get to 3/4 full, so there's only this last quarter notch left unfilled on the signature energy gauge, you want to transition from holding the static orb to holding basic attack. And what this is going to do is get us set up so we can fit these in the amplifier buff window. So from here, we hold down the basic attack, and then as soon as ult comes online, you can start tapping the ult. You'll see I'm already mashing on the ult button on my controller input. And then we're going to go into the slash orb ult. So the thing I did not discover while making the original alpha guide is how good the slash orb ult is for Warzone specifically. The reason being, her fully charged ult, one, only does its massive damage one time per stage. Not one time per time she comes on the field, but one time literally per each stage. So the idea is the slash ult allows us to clear multiple waves while maintaining time stop. The big charge ultimate can only hit once. No matter how many enemies are on the field, it's only going to hit them once. That means it can only clear a single wave. So there is no reason to use it in Warzone except at the very, very, very end of your run. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But just note, we go into the tap ult and use the slash orbs. So we tap ultimate, go into slash orb mode. And we're going to use these to clear out each individual wave to make sure that our ultimates are getting us the most value in terms of getting through the most enemies possible. Now, as a reminder, again, if your alpha is above double S3 or higher, you get 12 of these slash orbs when you transition into the ultimate. If you are doing double S, which is what we're talking about right now, you're going to only have 8 of them. So what I do is I try to remember to tap the ultimate after I've used 8 orbs so that I'm kind of recreating what you'll be doing in your double S rotation. Sometimes I forget and then I just mash the rest of the orbs out, but just note, you're only going to have 8 of these orbs, and once you use the 8th one, the ult will automatically go off for the finisher. So you don't have to worry about counting or the fact that you have less orbs than me. This is still going to work exactly the same way. The big caveat with the slash orbs is the idea is you don't just want to mash these. You don't want to slam these as fast as you can, because you have way more time in this ultimate than you think. You do not need to burn through these to get them all used before the ultimate expires. So what we're going to do is we're going to very slowly tap these one at a time and basically hit confirm when each boss dies. So you'll see I use 2 slash orbs here. This boss is dead. I stop attacking. I'm not doing anything. And you can do this very, very slowly. You can take your time with these slash orbs. You're not going to run up against it in terms of getting everything done before you run out of the signature time with the time stop. So I wait for the next enemy to come on, slash a few times, kill it, wait for the next enemy, kill it, and then I burned the rest of them because, again, for SS0, I would have been out of slash orbs already. So the ultimate goes off, and now we go back into normal mode. From normal mode, you're going to use a yellow 3 ping to reactivate the static orb. Once it is activated, you hold the static orb again. Same as the first part of the rotation, we're going to go until the signature energy gauge is 3/4 of the way full. From here, we transition to holding basic. So as you can see, I'm holding down the basic button on my controller. And what we're going to do is hold down basic, and then as soon as you see your ultimate light up, you can go ahead and start tapping ultimate again. Or sorry, excuse me. This is the setup rotation. So from here, what we're going to do is as soon as you see ultimate light up, you can start tapping Nanami to swap her back in. Make sure you're not tapping Nanami too early. If you tap too early before Alpha gets her ultimate built back up, you break your rotation. So just make sure you're waiting until this is fully lit up. After that, you can start mashing to bring Nanami back in. Nanami comes back in. We're going to do the exact same rotation for the entire run for Nanami. Hers doesn't change. Do 2 3 pings, hold down yellow. It's that simple. I'm going to come on the field with a full core passive gauge because of the triple S passive, but for you, you're just going to do same thing. 2 3 pings. It doesn't matter what color they are or what combination it is. Just make sure you do 2 of them and then go back to holding down the yellow. Hold down yellow to build up ignition stacks, and then once yellow is finished, go ahead and use ultimate. And then from here, we'll swap into Veronica for the first time. So Veronica at SS, you're not going to come on the field with ultimate already. So what we're going to do with Veronica on her first bring in is do 2 blue 3 pings, then tap the yellow orb, and then hold down ultimate. Make sure you're holding ultimate with Veronica. That's how she does ignition damage. If you just tap it, she's only going to do physical damage. So make sure you're holding down ultimate. For this first rotation, what we're going to do is we're just going to do 2 yellows for the quicker route to her ultimate, and then immediately cast her full ultimate. Out of this, what you're going to want to do is do a blue 3 ping, cancel it with a dodge, do 1 more blue 3 ping, and then swap back to Alpha. This is going to set it up so that you don't have signature energy issues with Veronica for her future rotations. So for the rest of the run, Alpha's rotation is pretty straightforward. Since we left with a full signature on deck when she swapped out last time, you come on the field and you immediately go into the slash ult. So tap ultimate, make sure you don't hold it, don't try and charge it. We want to make sure we're getting the slash ult. And same process. We're going to go into the slash ult. We're going to burn slash orbs slowly to make sure we're hit confirming each kill. And then once we've gone through 8, the ultimate will trigger, and we are back in the main mode. From here, same thing. Hold down the static orb. Continue holding it down until we get to 3/4 signature energy. So from here, transition to holding basic. And then as soon as ultimate comes online, tap ultimate, and another round of slash orbs. So hit confirm your slash orbs. Make sure each boss is dying, and then go into your full ultimate after 8 of them. And then from here, we need to set up for the next rotation. So a yellow 3 ping into hold the static orb. Get to 3/4 of the way, then swap to hold basic. This makes sure you don't run out of orbs and that you don't need deadline timing. Wait for the ultimate gauge to light up. Once it lights up, start mashing on Nanami, especially because there will be points in the run where your QTE will come online. You want to mash that early so that Nanami isn't delayed in getting back on the field. So go from there. Nanami comes back in, and that's it. That's the SS rotation basically for the whole thing. We do need to do 1 more with Veronica because she does have a second rotation after her first. So Nanami, same thing. 2 3 pings, hold yellow, do ultimate. Simple, clean, very, very straightforward. For Veronica's second time on the field, we're going to get into ultimate the same way. So go ahead, come in. This time we don't need to use blue because we already spammed blue 3 pings on the exit last time. So just use the yellow orb and then immediately hold ultimate to go into ignition ult. From here, this time we're going to go ahead and burn our 3 red 3 pings because Alpha still has a minute before she comes back on field. So 3 red 3 pings, and then hold down the yellow for the spiral attack. Go into her ultimate. And then before swapping her off the field, do blue 3 ping dodge, blue 3 ping, and swap back to Alpha. Rotations repeat for the rest of the double S3 rotation. So that's pretty much how it all works. That covers almost everything you need to do the entire rotation regardless of your investments, but I'm still going to go over the other two so you know the differences. But let's go ahead, go through this in real time with the actual annotations off to the side so you can practice. These are going to be longer rotations since they're full team rotations and there's a lot going on. So if you hear me mess something up on the verbal, follow the annotations off onto the left of the screen. They're going to be correct no matter what. But Alpha, Veronica, Nanami, Ignition, double S rotations. These can be used regardless of what the other character's investments are. Swap to Nanami, 2 3 pings, hold yellow. Build up your Ignition stacks, ultimate. After ultimate ends, swap Alpha in. Hold the static orb. Wait for the signature energy gauge to hit 3/4. Hold basic. As soon as ult's online, tap ult. Hit confirm your slash orbs. After 8 slash orbs, ult will go off automatically. Yellow 3 ping, hold the static orb. Hold static until 3/4 of the way. Swap to hold basic. As soon as ultimate lights up, swap to Nanami. 2 3 pings, hold yellow. Ultimate. Soon as ultimate ends, swap to Veronica. Veronica comes in, 2 blue 3 pings, yellow, hold ultimate. Tap yellow twice. Ult. Blue 3 ping, dodge blue 3 ping, swap to Alpha, tap ult immediately. Hit confirm your slash orbs. After 8 slash orbs, ultimate goes off automatically. Hold down the static orb. Get the signature energy gauge to 3/4. Hold basic. As soon as ult comes online, tap ult. Hit confirm your slash orbs. Ultimate goes off. Yellow 3 ping, hold static. Hold static until 3/4 of the gauge is full. Hold basic. As soon as ultimate lights up, swap to Nanami. Nanami repeats her same rotation again, as always. Ults to reignite and activate the ignition effect. And then swap back to Veronica. Veronica immediately use the yellow orb. Hold ultimate. 3 red 3 pings. Hold yellow. Use ultimate. Out of the ultimate, blue 3 ping dodge, blue 3 ping, swap to Alpha. Repeat the rotation for the rest of the run. These rotations will work as long as any character is double S0 with their ultimate weapon. From there, let's go ahead and take a look what changes at double S3, which is only going to alter Alpha's rotation. Okay, so for the double S3 rotation, the only thing that changes is Alpha. Veronica and Nanami do the exact same rotations that they do at double S, so you don't need to alter anything there. We're only going to be changing up what Alpha does, so I'm not going to go through the Nanami and Veronica parts right out the gate here. So, same concept, we're going to bring Alpha in to set up a setup rotation so that she can get 3 ultimates per amplifier window moving forward. So how this one's going to look is Alpha comes in. Since we are double S3, we no longer have any reason to hold the static orb beyond the initial charge up to get in to her secondary mode. So we hold static just long enough to charge up the core passive gauge. From here, we're just going to hold basic all the way. The difference is now, once we get our full ultimate gauge online, before we tap ultimate and go into the slash orbs, you're going to want to burn 1 yellow 3 ping. You'll see right here, I fit in a yellow 3 ping prior to using the ultimate. The reason you want to do this is this gets enough signature energy and reactivates the static orb. The signature energy doesn't matter, actually, is that's because Malaysian is weird. But Malison, nonetheless, what's important is it reactivates the static orb. Doing this before going into the ult makes it so we can fit in 2 ultimates in the amplifier window on the first pass. So I use the yellow 3 ping, tap the ultimate. Same thing, hit confirm the slash orbs. Because we're double S3 now we get 12 orbs instead of 8. So again, hit confirm all 12. You still don't have to go super fast. You have plenty of time to get them all online. So after the ultimate goes off, from here, we're going to hold down the static orb and then charge up to secondary mode. Once you're in secondary mode, hold down basic. This time, we're just going to get to ultimate as soon as possible. So you tap ult as soon as it's available, and you can see we just barely fit in the amplifier window. Fitting in that yellow ping before the first ultimate was the cog I was missing in the machine to fit in 2 ultimates in the amplifier window. And I never even considered that was a thing because I was so just mind rotted from the fact that everything was hold button until ultimate that it actually kind of made me dumb down my own thinking. So such is the life when you don't have Warzone testing. What you gonna do? Anyway, this fits within the amplifier window, so from here, same thing. Hit confirm all 12 slash orbs. Again, take your time. Make sure you're not wasting any slash orbs. This is how you maximize score with Alpha in this setup. From here, after this, we go ahead, use a yellow 3 ping to reactivate the orb. Hold down the static orb to get into the secondary mode. And now we just hold down basic until ultimate lights up. Once ultimate lights up, you can swap back to Nanami. Nanami does the exact same rotation as before, so does Veronica, so I'm just going to skip over those. I will go through them in the annotations for the actual real-time part. So we go through their 2 parts. Let's get back to Alpha, and we'll talk about how we fit 3 ultimates in Alpha's windows. So Veronica does her blue 3 ping dodge, blue 3 ping. Swaps to Alpha. The second Alpha comes on the field, tap ultimate. Just as you're mashing the swap in, mash ultimate. You want this to go off immediately because fitting the 3 ultimates in the amp window is tight. It is not super restrictive, but it is tight. The nice thing is because Alpha's attacks all buffer into each other very nicely, it's not near as executionally demanding as it feels like. So we immediately go into slash ultimate as Alpha comes on the field. Again, hit confirm all 12 orbs, just as you've been doing before. Ultimate goes off. Now, from here, it's going to be the same thing 2 times in a row. We're going to hold down the static orb, swap to hold basic once we're in secondary mode. And just like the first setup, before we go back into the tap ultimate, make sure you ping a yellow 3 ping to reactivate the static orb, then go into the slash ultimate. So I tap the yellow 3 ping, the static's back online, we go into the slash orbs. Hit confirm all these once again. Ultimate goes off. And now, same thing, hold static, hold basic, use a yellow 3 ping right before ult. And you'll see, again, just barely getting that 3rd ult within the amplifier window. This is going to feel a little tight at first. I promise with even a little amount of practice, you will get it consistently every time. The buffer makes this very, very easy to do. So from here, one last hit confirm of all 12 orbs. If you're getting up here in waves, you're going to notice that it's much, much, much slower to kill enemies. And if you want, you can start mashing a little faster, but I still recommend taking your time until you know whatever slash orbs you have left are not going to kill. The more you do these rotations, the more this will feel cohesive, and you'll know when it's like, okay, this is not going to kill no matter how many orbs I have left, so let's just mash these out. So from here, we set up for the next rotation. Same as before, the static's already online, so hold down static, swap to hold basic, wait for the ultimate come online, and then swap to Nanami, repeat the rotations from there. So that is the only thing that changes for double S3 is Alpha swapping from a setup into 2 ultimates, from a setup rotation into 3 ultimates, repeat the 3 ultimates for the rest of the run. As a reminder, at the end of the run, whenever you're going to get your last ultimate in, and that'll be different depending on your swap cooldowns and all that stuff, but make sure that at the very last ultimate you're able to fit in for Alpha, that you're doing a fully charged ultimate. This is especially important on single boss Warzone, because you're probably going to have a very chunky health bar, and as long as you haven't done charge ultimate ultimate for the whole stage, it is 100% going to one-shot whatever is on the screen, even if it's a 30 health bar boss. So just remember to fit in your charge ult at the very, very, very end of the run. I didn't record all the way in to the very end of the run because, well, I was doing multiple rotations and I didn't feel like putting in 2.5 extra minutes of footage with the time stop just to show you that you have to hold down the ult at the end. I'm going to assume you can all handle that part. So once more in real time, this is the double S3 rotation. Again, the only thing that changes is alpha, but we'll do it all for the sake of it. Swap to Nanami, 2-3 pings, hold down yellow. Use ultimate, activate ignition. Swap to alpha. Hold down the static orb, hold basic. Once signature is full, tap a yellow 3-ping, then tap ult. Hit confirm the slash orbs. This time you'll be doing 12 instead of 8. Ultimate goes off. Hold the static orb. Hold basic. Tap ult as soon as it's online to fit in the amp window. Hit confirm your slash orbs. Slash orbs finish up. Ultimate goes off. Yellow 3-ping. Hold down the static orb. Hold down basic. As soon as ultimate lights up, swap back to Nanami. 2-3 pings. Hold yellow. Ultimate. Swap to Veronica. 2 blue 3 pings. Yellow orb. Hold ultimate. Tap yellow twice. Ultimate again. Blue 3-ping dodge. Blue 3-ping. Swap to alpha. Ult immediately. Hit your slash orbs. Ultimate goes off. Hold the static. Hold basic. 3-ping before the ultimate. Tap ultimate. Hit confirm your slash orbs. Ultimate goes off. Hold static again. Hold basic. Yellow 3-ping before the ultimate. Tap ultimate. Hit confirm the slash orbs. Ultimate goes off. Hold static. Hold basic. Wait for the ultimate to light up. Swap back to Nanami. That is the double S3 rotation. Alpha will do this rotation for any setup where she is double S3 or higher. So let's take a look at one last example where you have everyone at triple S. It won't matter for Alpha. Hers stays the same. But Veronica's and Nanami's both change at triple S. So let's take a quick look at that. Okay, so for triple S3, the only things that are going to change are for Veronica and Nanami. As I mentioned, Alpha will do her double S3 rotation, and it will work exactly the same and function just fine. So we're going to go over what changes for Nanami and Veronica. So Nanami's first rotation does not change. You still have to manually build up the ability to use the yellow orb. So 2-3 pings into yellow. You know how this works by now. I'm not going to waste any time on it. So from here, what we're going to do, let the ultimate go off. Alpha's going to come in and do her thing. It's the exact same rotation, so I'm going to go ahead and skip over it just to save everyone some time because you've already seen the whole thing by now. So Alpha does her thing. We swap back to Nanami. Now, the thing that's going to change for Nanami on her second rotation and on is that now you no longer have to use the 3 pings. The gauge is going to be full from your last one, so you just come on the field and immediately hold down yellow. That's it. You just bring her on the field, hold yellow, use ultimate. I know, it's a drastic change. Very hard to keep up with. From here, Nanami swaps out. So Veronica at triple S will come on the field with ultimate fully charged due to her extra evolutionary passives. So you can come in and just immediately hold ult. No time needs to be wasted. Go ahead, tap yellow twice, go into the ult. If you have Nanami at triple S, you're going to have a little bit of extra time here. So what I do is I just do 2 sets of double 3 pings on the blue to build up a bunch of extra signature energy. Basically just killing some time. You don't have enough time to fit in another ultimate or anything, but this is just wasting time till Alpha gets back on the field. So from here, Alpha does her same exact double S3 rotation. Nanami, for the rest of the fight, does the exact same thing. She's going to come on the field with a full core passive gauge, so bring her on the field and hold down yellow. Excitement abounds, I know. Lots of holding down buttons on this team, go figure. All right, only other change for the SS rotation is that from here on out, Veronica will always come in with signature already online, so you just come in, hold signature immediately for the second rotation on to spell some of the time, since Alpha still has a minute to come back on the field. We're going to do the triple red 3-ping into hold yellow for the drill attack, then go into the ultimate. Alpha won't quite be back online, so do blue 3-ping, dodge, blue 3-ping. Swap to Alpha, repeat her rotation from there. Not a lot of deviation from the SS3 rotation, but since you get those special passes with Nanami and Veronica, you do have a way to speed up their rotations and obviously just make everything run smoother. So one last time, let's go through this in real time just so it's available. I'll put the annotations up. I'm going to have to copy paste these so many times. Good luck, editor Clage. But SS3 rotation doesn't matter for Alpha. SS3 stays the same, but Veronica and Nanami change slightly. So here we go. Swap to Nanami, 2 3-pings, hold yellow. Remember to not use your QTEs, so you're getting extra stacks on the ignition effect. Ultimate. Swap to Alpha. Hold down static, hold basic, yellow 3-ping before the ultimate. Tap ult. Hit confirm your slash orbs. Go through all 12. Hold down the static orb. Hold basic. Tap ult immediately. Hit confirm all your slash orbs. You're so tired of hearing me say this by now. Ultimate goes off. Yellow 3-ping, hold static, hold basic, wait for ultimate to light up, and then swap to Nanami. Nanami, immediately hold yellow. Ultimate. After ultimate goes off, swap to Veronica, hold ultimate immediately on Veronica. Tap yellow twice. Ultimate. Spam blue 3-pings while you wait for Alpha's cooldown to come off. Swap to Alpha, ult immediately. Hit confirm the slash orbs. All 12 are used. Ultimate goes off, hold static, hold basic, yellow 3-ping before tap ultimate. Hit confirm your slash orbs. Literally could have just had a soundboard that says hit confirm the slash orbs. Hold static, hold basic, yellow 3-ping before tap ultimate. Hit confirm the slash orbs. Ultimate goes off. Hold static. Hold basic. Swap to Nanami. Hold yellow. Ultimate. Swap to Veronica. Hold ult immediately. 3 red 3-pings. Hold yellow for the drill attack. Ultimate. After ultimate is over, blue 3-ping dodge, blue 3-ping, swap back to Alpha, ult immediately. Repeat the rotation for the rest of the run. When Alpha reaches her final ultimate she can fit in before the timer runs out, at the end of the run, make sure you do a fully charged ultimate to wipe out whatever that last big wave is. So, there are all your rotations. Again, these are all mix and matchable. You can intermingle regardless of what investment each character is. You may have to do some minor tweaks based on your swap cooldowns and other things, but if you want to just kind of Frankenstein these together based on where each character is investment-wise, you will form a nice, consistent, cohesive rotation that'll get you solid scores in Warzone. So, with all that taken care of, let's go ahead and wrap this guide up and get out of here for the day. All right, friends, so that's going to put a wrap on the updated Ignition team guide. This team's pretty comfortable to pilot. There's not a lot of intensive execution hurdles to overcome. Basically fitting in Alpha's 3 ults for the amplifier buff window if you're playing the SS3 and above rotation is probably the trickiest part to get down, but because she has so many buffers with her hold attacks, it's really not going to take you a lot of time. This is definitely not a Bianca Crepuscule, oh my god, how do I fit all these ultimates in time kind of window. It looks very tight, and I guess technically it is, but the fact that Alpha's attacks all kind of buffer together gives you a lot more margin for error than it seems like it actually has. So I'm also just very happy that the Warzone players and high-end players have been able to drag some nuance out of Alpha's combat kit. You know, on original release, and I mentioned this multiple times in the guide, it felt like she really just was hold down the button, the character, and that was definitely not super fulfilling or satisfying to try and pilot. So I'm extremely glad that the tap ult with the slash orbs has become the norm for Warzone, and obviously is very, very powerful due to the fact that it has time stop. I think I would have recognized this easier in the initial guide if we had Warzone to test with, but as I've mentioned 5 bajillion times now, we unfortunately do not get that luxury during testing, and it really does make it hard to parse out in your head how to really manipulate some of these characters' kits when we just don't have that much time under our belts with how they work. So I'm going to continue to pester Kuro, and hopefully they amend that somewhere down the road, but it might just be one of those things where I have to accept that I'm just going to have to make my best guess on rotations until I can actually test Warzone. So, is what it is, but nonetheless, I am glad that Alpha is a little bit more complicated than initially felt. I still think she's overly simplified, and having the attacker class attached to her isn't doing her any favors, but right now she is doing incredibly well both in Ignition and Ice Warzone. So, it's not quite the gloom and doom I think we all saw out the gate with this character, and that makes me very happy because, as you all know, I'm kind of a big Alpha fanboy. So, but nonetheless, there's not much else I really have to say on this one. If you got any questions or anything didn't make sense, feel free to leave me a comment down below. I always try to respond to those as often as I can. And I do want to take a moment and thank you all for checking out Alpha's guide. It is by far my highest viewed guide of all time, and that feels really good, even if I had a lot of mixed feelings while making the guide itself. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that for y'all. And in general, there just hasn't been a lot to talk about this patch in terms of what is going on with PGR. Alpha's kind of less than stellar arrival combined with a patch that doesn't have a lot of interesting extra modes to it, despite being what would normally be our half anniversary patch, has kind of left me with not a lot to really want to make a video on, if I'm being perfectly frank with you all. And on top of that, I have been kind of prioritizing my personal mental and physical health here of late, trying to get myself back in better shape in all facets, because I honestly need it. So I've kind of been giving myself a little bit of a breather from much work in terms of making videos and stuff. Nonetheless, I still have plenty of projects that I have planned out for the future, and more than enough things to talk about when it comes to PGR writ large. So I'm not going anywhere, but this patch might be a little more sparse than usual for videos, because there's just not a ton for me to talk about at this current juncture. So, but all that said, for those of you, the 1,000 or so of you who check out the lore videos, I have not even started that project yet for Surviving Lusum. I'm going to need to give that one maximum focus, maximum effort, and it's going to be probably the most important PGR video I've ever made, at least in terms of not effing it up. So I'm going to give myself some time until I'm in the right headspace and right amount of energy to really tackle that. It's going to be a very monstrous task, so I humbly ask your patience while I get, in the right place to be able to start working on that video. But once I do, I'll give you all some community updates and let you all know what the plan is with that. So, but I think I've yapped enough. As always, I appreciate you all for checking out the guide and supporting the channel. If you want to do all the YouTube nonsense on the way out, like, comment, subscribe, it's always appreciated. It's never necessary. And yeah, I hope y'all are having a good start to your summer if you're in the Western Hemisphere like myself. But for now, let's go ahead and call this good. Y'all be good, take care of each other, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.